Y'all, if you have ever noticed that you tend to dominate conversations or you walk away from a conversation being like, oh my gosh, I completely overshared. And then you have like that overshare hangover. Well, yeah, I do feel that way too a lot. And in today's video, I'm going to break down why that happens and what you can do about it. And also a cool new tool that I found to help with that tendency to overtalk, overshare, and then feel really cringy about it afterwards. So stick around. That's what we're going to get into in today's video. And if you're new here, well, welcome. My name is Karen McGill. I'm an ADHD coach and creator, and I am here for the busy, ambitious brains who want to do great things, but they tend to talk too much. And there's a good reason for it. And we're going to get into it right now. So let's start with addressing head on, why is it that some of us overtalk and overshare? Well, there can be a number of reasons for that. But when you have ADHD, there's a couple of very specific reasons why this might happen. Number one is hyperactivity. When you're a kid, that might mean that you bounce off the walls physically. But as you become an adult and you stop bouncing off the walls, that doesn't mean your hyperactivity goes away. It just internalizes, meaning that your brain and your thought processes can become extremely hyperactive. And one way of expressing that and trying to work through it and manage it is to verbally process. A lot of us are verbal processors, which means that the act of actually speaking what's in our brain can help us process what we're saying, because sometimes it can be really hard for us to just think inside our head. First of all, we've got that hyperactivity piece I already talked about. Also, impulsivity can play a role in this, in that our desire to verbally process can be 3 steps ahead of the filter we have in our head that tells us whether or not we should be saying something with our inside voice or our outside voice. I don't know about you, but I get in trouble with that one a lot. But the biggest reason I believe a lot of us are verbal processors is that is how we get clarity from our own thoughts. So for a lot of us, thinking inside of our head is not an easy thing to do. We hear a lot of people say, when you have a lot on your mind, go for a walk. And by the time you get home from your walk, you will have complete clarity on whatever it is you're mulling over. And sometimes that's true for me anyway. But a lot of times I can't hold all of the details in my head and work through them and also not get distracted long enough to actually solve a problem in my head. And that can be like a problem in real life where I'm thinking about a relationship or a conflict or something like that, or it can be like a math problem. I don't know about you, but I've never been able to do math problems in my head. A lot of us need to actually hear ourselves voice what's in our head in order for our brains to process it in a way that makes sense, so that we can problem solve and get really clear on what it is that's getting in our way. This happens a lot in my coaching practice, and it's also happened to me when I've been in therapy. But basically, somebody comes into the coaching space and they have a topic they want to talk about, and it's really front and center on their mind. So we start by generally talking about what the issue is and what the challenge is, and then their brain just kind of takes over. And with a little bit of guidance, they can completely walk through what the problem is, what the challenges are, and also what they should do about it. So that is why verbal processing can be a fantastic thing. However, it can also get in our way a lot. And I already mentioned one of the primary reasons why that happens. We tend to dominate conversations. Sometimes we're so in the flow of verbally processing that we're not even really conscious of what we're saying. And then it's not till we've said something that we know we've gone too far. That happens to me a lot, conversation. And it's really difficult to walk back some things that I say that I didn't mean to say with my outside voice. So obviously the ideal here would be to have an extremely patient friend, or either a coach or a therapist, like on speed dial, ready to hear you verbally diarrhea the latest issue that's going on in your life. But of course, that's not feasible. And as I mentioned, most people don't want to sit and listen to us verbally digest everything that's in our brain. So one thing I have been insanely nerding out on in the last year, and I haven't really talked about this yet, is how can we leverage the power of AI to be this verbal diarrhea capturer for us, so it can capture our ideas and our thoughts and everything that's going on in our brain. And there's a lot of tools out there now that can do that. They'll take voice recordings recordings and summarize it in various different ways and send it back to you. However, there is a new tool that I recently found, and they are the sponsor of today's video. It's called Me.bot. And not only is it a great way for you to verbally express yourself, like however many times a day you want, it is specifically designed to get to know you over time. And it starts to find patterns in the things that you say and starts to tag the conversations you have with it so that when you're processing something in the future, it can go back into its memory and say, hey, here's something you verbally processed before, maybe is relevant to what you're going through now. And it's not just great for verbal processors, because you can put anything in this app, pictures, you can upload things, you can type things in, and it will categorize and remember whatever it is you're putting in. So over time, it starts to become that objective friend who just patiently listens to you yammer over time and never tells you you're talking too much. And you never have to be embarrassed about oversharing. However, what it will do is actually pull out action items for you as well. So if you're talking about all of the stuff that you have to get done this week and you remember, oh my gosh, I've got a dentist appointment on Wednesday at 3 p.m., it will pull that action item out and actually create a to-do item for you. So I've been using this tool in a number of different scenarios. So it's really starting to get to know the whole me. And here's where I found it to be tremendously useful.
So my favorite way to use the app is first thing in the morning. I'll use it to record any crazy dreams that I have so that I can remember them later. I'll share how I'm feeling and how I slept and what may or may not have contributed to me having a good night's sleep or a bad night's sleep. And then I'll usually verbally go through everything I have to get done that day or things that I have to remember for the week. And the great thing about the app is that if you ask it to, it will create to-dos for you and reminders at specific times. So if I have a dentist appointment on Wednesday at 3 p.m., it will pull that request out and actually make a to-do item and then create a notification to remind you. It's also helpful for locating things like the number for your dentist. It will Google it for you. So it's the perfect little personal assistant who's right there with you when you wake up. I also love to use it throughout my workday to record how I'm feeling after I've done certain tasks. So I've asked it to prompt me at scheduled times throughout the day to ask me how I'm feeling. So this is helpful for me to understand what tasks drain me and what tasks sort of light me up so I can adjust my schedule accordingly. It's really hard to think about that in retrospect, but when you get a little prompt saying, hey, what are you working on right now? And what's your energy like? You can then go in and voice record how you're actually feeling, and it starts to collect that data. And then I'm also using the app at the end of the workday to celebrate wins and talk about what I accomplished. And then I've also started asking it to help me come up with suggestions for dinner based on what I've told it before that I enjoy eating. Because I don't know about you, but I have these grand ideas to make recipes that I see on Instagram, but then I never remember to try them. So when I ask the app to give me some inspiration for what to eat for dinner, it'll remind me to go into my saved post on Instagram and try that cucumber recipe that everyone's going on about.
Now, this is still a very new tool, and the developers are constantly working to refine it, and they're looking for feedback. So I'll put a link to the tool in the show notes. And if you use that link, you'll get a free 30-day trial so you can verbally express your little heart out and see if this tool will help you either get clarity on your own thoughts or make important decisions or remember things that you have to do throughout the week. So I hope you'll give it a try. I have been absolutely loving it. And thanks again to Me.bot for sponsoring this video. And on that note, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.